The morning sun cast long shadows across New Haven's Central Plaza as Sarah Chen checked the atmospheric readings on her tablet. 3 years into their colonization of Kepler 186f, the settlement had grown from a cluster of prefab shelters to a proper community of nearly 5,000 people. The planet's rich soil and familiar gravity had made it perfect for Earth's first serious attempt at interstellar colonization. Dr. Chen, we've got anomalous readings in Sector 7, called Marcus, one of her junior researchers. His voice carried a hint of curiosity rather than concern. Sarah glanced up, squinting against the reddish light of Kepler's star. Probably just another magnetic fluctuation. This planet has the wildest electromagnetic field I've ever studied. But it wasn't a magnetic fluctuation. The first ships appeared as tiny silver specks in the clear purple sky, growing larger with alarming speed. By the time the colony's rudimentary defense systems detected the incoming vessels, they were already positioning themselves in low orbit. Sarah's comm unit buzzed with an emergency alert from Colony Administrator Okafor. Unknown spacecraft entering atmosphere. All citizens proceed to designated shelter areas immediately. This is not a drill. The colonists had practiced emergency protocols dozens of times, but those drills had prepared them for storms, not visitors. Especially not visitors who arrived without communication or warning. Within the hour, the silver ships, smooth and oval-shaped like polished river stones, had landed in a perfect circle around New Haven. From each vessel emerged tall, multi-limbed creatures with iridescent skin that shifted colors in the sunlight. Their movements were fluid, almost hypnotic to watch. Dr. Eliana Okafor, backed by the colony's small security team, armed with little more than crowd control equipment, approached the closest alien with an outstretched hand and a translation device. "We welcome you to New Haven. We come in peace and hope to establish friendly." The alien raised what appeared to be a slender appendage. A flash of blue light erupted from it, and 3 security officers collapsed instantly. Not dead, their chest movements indicated breathing, but completely immobilized. "Hostile," shouted Chief Security Officer Jackson. "Everyone back." The remaining security personnel formed a protective line between the aliens and the retreating colonists, but their simple weapons proved useless against the visitors' technology. Within 20 minutes, half the colony's security force lay paralyzed on the ground. Sarah watched in horror from the science building's observation tower. As the aliens methodically advanced toward the colony center, disabling anyone who resisted. Their movements suggested not rage, but calculated efficiency, like gardeners removing weeds. "They're hurting us," whispered Linway, the colony's agricultural specialist, as they huddled around emergency communications equipment. "Look at the pattern of their advance." Sarah realized he was right. The aliens weren't killing, at least not yet, but systematically corralling the colonists toward the Central Plaza. Administrator Okafor's voice crackled over the emergency channel. "All colonists, retreat to underground facilities. I repeat, retreat underground. Send emergency beacon to Earth immediately." But the main communications array went offline seconds later as an alien ship positioned itself directly above the transmitter. "They knew exactly where to hit us," muttered Sarah, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her fear. "They've been watching us." As night fell over New Haven, the colonists found themselves in a situation no training manual had prepared them for, under siege by beings they couldn't communicate with, couldn't fight, and couldn't understand. The first day of first contact had become the first day of invasion. 2 weeks after the arrival of the aliens, whom the colonists had started calling shimmers due to their color-shifting skin, New Haven had been transformed from a thriving outpost of human achievement into what essentially amounted to a work camp. The aliens had established a perimeter around the colony and begun systematically dismantling equipment and buildings, seemingly focusing on communications technology and power generation systems. Most concerning was their particular interest in Earth-based weapons and defensive systems, which they studied before destroying. In the underground maintenance tunnels originally designed for utility access, Dr. Chen had established what had become the de facto resistance headquarters. The narrow concrete passages, initially considered an engineering inconvenience during colony construction, now served as the humans' greatest asset. The shimmers seemed unable or unwilling to squeeze their elongated bodies into the confined spaces. "They've taken the hydroponics bay," reported Marcus, slipping into the dimly lit central junction, where 24 colonists huddled around battery-powered lamps. His normally cheerful face was gaunt after days of minimal rations. "They're not destroying the crops, though actually seem to be caring for them. At least they don't want us to starve." muttered Lin Wei, who had been obsessively documenting alien behavior patterns on a hand-drawn map. Just work ourselves to exhaustion, mining whatever mineral they're after. Sarah nodded grimly. The Shimmers had forced able-bodied colonists to expand the initial mining operations, particularly in areas rich with rare earth elements. Those who resisted found family members subjected to the paralysis ray, a state that lasted precisely 24 hours before wearing off, as if calibrated as a warning rather than a permanent solution. Has anyone managed to understand their language? Asked Yuki Tanaka, the colony's communications specialist. Her left arm was bandaged from a close encounter with a Shimmer guard. It's not sound-based, replied Sarah. Doctor, Okafor thinks it's some combination of color shifts and electromagnetic signals. Our instruments detect intense EM bursts whenever they communicate. A soft tapping from the tunnel entrance interrupted their conversation. Security Officer Rodriguez slipped in, followed by a figure few in the room recognized, a lanky teenager with a shock of curly red hair. This is Jamie, Rodriguez announced, Administrator Okafor's nephew. Kid's been watching the Shimmers from the ventilation ducts. Jamie nodded nervously. They have a pattern. Every 47 minutes, they perform what looks like a synchronized color display. All of them stop whatever they're doing and turn the same sequence of colors. After that, they sometimes change their behavior or focus. Sarah's scientific mind raced with implications. It could be a status update or new instructions, or a religious ritual, suggested Lynn. Whatever it is, interjected Rodriguez, it gives us a predictable window when they're distracted. And we need every advantage because something big is happening soon. Their mining operation is accelerating, and they've started assembling something near their main ship. The meeting was interrupted by a distant rumble that shook dust from the tunnel ceiling. What was that? Whispered Yuki. Jamie's eyes widened. That sounded like atmosphere entry. More ships. Rodriguez's expression darkened. Either reinforcements for them or help for us, finished Sarah, allowing herself a moment of hope. Earth's first interstellar colony was too important to abandon. The emergency beacon had been transmitted before communications went down. Surely Earth would have responded by now. The tunnel group scattered to observation points throughout the colony. Sarah and Jamie crawled through maintenance ducts to the partially collapsed science building, where a broken skylight offered a clear view of the sky. What they saw made Sarah's heart pound. Streaks of fire, not silver like the Shimmer ships, but the familiar burnt orange of Earth's interstellar military vessels cutting through the atmosphere. Those are Terran Defense Force ships, Jamie whispered excitedly. Sarah counted at least 7 vessels, smaller than the alien craft but moving with decisive purpose. Earth sent the veterans, she murmured, recognizing the distinctive silhouettes of ships that had seen action in the Mars Rebellion decades earlier. As they watched, the lead human ship did something unexpected. Instead of engaging the larger alien vessels in orbit, it accelerated directly toward the ground, releasing dozens of smaller objects that appeared to be falling uncontrolled. Are those drop pods? Jamie asked. Sarah nodded, a mixture of terror and hope rising in her chest. Earth hadn't sent a diplomatic mission or a scientific team. They'd sent Marines. Commander Elena Vasquez had made 37 combat drops in her 20-year career with the Terran Defense Force. Each time, the momentary weightlessness followed by the crushing G-forces of deceleration reminded her of her own mortality. But this drop was different. This time, she wasn't fighting other humans over territorial claims or resource rights. This time, the enemy was truly alien. 30 seconds to impact, the pod's AI announced with artificial cheerfulness. Around her, 23 identical pods streaked toward New Haven's Central Plaza, a calculated risk. Intelligence suggested the aliens had centralized their operations there, making it both the most dangerous and most strategically valuable landing zone. Remember, Elena's voice transmitted to every Marine, we hit hard, we hit fast, and we protect the civilians. These colonists have been under alien control for almost 3 weeks. Expect physical and psychological trauma. And remember your xenobiology briefing, these things might look pretty, but their biology gives them advantages in strength and possibly perception. The pods slammed into the planet's surface with precisely controlled violence, their outer shells absorbing and dispersing the kinetic energy. Elena's restraints released automatically as her pod's front plate blew outward, and she emerged into New Haven's alien-occupied Central Plaza with her pulse rifle already tracking targets. The Shimmers seemed momentarily stunned by the humans' arrival method, or perhaps by their very existence. Several stood motionless, their skins cycling rapidly through colors as the battle-armored Marines deployed in textbook formation around the landing zone. Elena's enhanced vision picked out details through her helmet's display, at least 40 aliens in the immediate vicinity, colonists being held in what appeared to be a repurposed hydroponics facility, and unfamiliar equipment being assembled near the colony's power core. Defensive perimeter established, reported Lieutenant Chang, her second-in-command. No hostile response yet. They're communicating, Elena noted, watching the rapid color changes rippling through the alien group. All units hold position, but be ready. Let's see if they... The first energy blast struck Private Rodriguez squarely in the chest plate, knocking him backward, but failing to penetrate the advanced armor. The Marine training kicked in immediately. Rodriguez rolled to a firing position, while the rest of the squad deployed countermeasures and took cover. Weapons free, ordered Elena, as more blue energy beams sliced through the air. Non-lethal if possible. We need intelligence, but protect yourselves and the colonists. The veterans' response was immediate and overwhelming. Unlike the colony's security team with their basic equipment, the Marines wore combat exoskeletons that enhanced their strength and speed while providing substantial protection. Their weapons were designed specifically for extraterrestrial threats, with adjustable output and multiple ammunition types. What followed was 5 minutes of chaos that the colonists watching from hiding places would later describe as both terrifying and beautiful. The Marines moved with machine-like precision, their armor allowing them to withstand hits that would have immediately disabled an unprotected human. The aliens, for all their technological advantages, seemed unprepared for the ferocity and coordination of the human counterattack. 6 Marines secured the captive colonists, while the others engaged the Shimmers, who were retreating toward their ships with unexpected speed. They're running, observed Chang with surprise. Intelligence suggested they'd fight to the death. Tactical retreat, Elena corrected, watching the patterns of movement. They're regrouping. And look, she pointed to where the aliens were creating what appeared to be a defensive line between the human forces and the mysterious equipment they'd been assembling. Whatever that device is, they're protecting it. Team Alpha, continue securing civilians. Bravo team, with me, we need to capture that technology intact. As the Marines advanced, a familiar figure emerged from a maintenance tunnel entrance, a woman in a stained lab coat with a determined expression. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, Colony Science Director, she announced, approaching Elena. And you need to know what we've learned about them before you charge in there. Elena hesitated only briefly before signaling her team to hold position. In combat, information was often as valuable as firepower. Make it quick, Doctor. Sarah nodded. They communicate through color patterns and electromagnetic pulses. They have a synchronized communication event every 47 minutes where they all stop and, she checked her watch, which should happen in about 3 minutes. During that time, they're completely focused on their communication. It's our best opening. Elena's tactical mind immediately processed the implications. Lieutenant Chang synchronized squad chronometers. We hit them during their next communication window. For the first time since the aliens had arrived, Sarah felt something like genuine hope. The Marines weren't just better armed than the colony's security, they fought with a strategic discipline that the Shimmers seemed unprepared for. As they waited for the aliens' communication cycle, Elena briefed her team while medics attended to the freed colonists. The Marine commander's expression remained professionally neutral, but inside a slow anger burned as she saw the condition of the civilians: exhausted, malnourished, and bearing the psychological scars of their captivity. 45 seconds to their communication cycle, announced Chang. Elena nodded to her team. Remember, secure that device if possible. And I want at least one of these things alive for questioning. As the seconds counted down, the alien skin began to shift in synchronized patterns, their attention turning inward exactly as Sarah had predicted. Now, ordered Elena. The Marines moved like a single organism, exploiting the momentary distraction with ruthless efficiency. The battle for New Haven had truly begun. The Shimmer's synchronized communication period lasted exactly 2 minutes, and 17 seconds more than enough time for Elena's tactical team to penetrate their defensive line and reach the mysterious device. What they found was both fascinating and alarming. A complex apparatus that appeared to be analyzing and replicating Earth technology, particularly weapon systems. It's like they're studying us, muttered Lieutenant Chang as the tech specialist in their unit captured detailed scans, reverse engineering our equipment. The aliens emerged from their communication trance to find humans had not only breached their defenses, but secured their most valuable asset. Their reaction was immediate and unexpectedly aggressive, far more so than their previous encounters with the colonists. They really don't want us to have this, Elena observed as the aliens launched a coordinated counterattack. Their previously methodical approach replaced with what appeared to be genuine urgency. All units, defensive positions, use the device as bait, let them come to us. The strategy worked. The Shimmer's determination to reclaim their technology made their movements predictable, allowing the Marines to funnel them into prepared fields of fire. For every Marine temporarily disabled by the aliens' paralysis weapons, 3 Shimmers were incapacitated by the humans' shock nets and stun rounds. From her position coordinating civilian evacuation, Sarah watched the battle with scientific fascination. They're not used to fighting an organized resistance, she noted to Administrator Okafor, who had been freed from alien captivity looking exhausted but unbroken. Look at their tactics, they expected us to be primitive. Their first contact was with colonists armed with little more than farming tools and basic security equipment, replied Okafor. They had no way of knowing Earth's military capabilities. As the battle for the plaza continued, another group of colonists led by Lin Wei and Marcus had implemented their own plan. Using the maintenance tunnels, they reached the colony's partially dismantled communications array. The aliens destroyed the main transmitter, Lin explained to the Marine technician who joined them. But the backup systems are mostly intact. They didn't recognize them because we built them using repurposed agricultural monitoring equipment. The Marine whose name badge identified her as Technical Specialist Rivera grinned appreciatively. Clever. Let's get it operational. Commander Vasquez needs to communicate with the ships in orbit. Within 30 minutes, they had established a rudimentary uplink, not powerful enough for interstellar communication, but sufficient to coordinate with the Terran vessels engaged with alien ships above the planet. Ground team to TDF Relentless, Elena's voice transmitted clearly despite the makeshift equipment. We've secured the colony center and approximately 60% of the alien ground forces. More importantly, we've captured what appears to be their technology analysis device. Requesting orbital status. The response from Captain Mackenzie aboard the Relentless was succinct. We've disabled 2 alien vessels and forced 3 others to retreat beyond lunar orbit. They're regrouping, Commander. Whatever you've captured down there has them seriously concerned. Our xenobiologists are eager for a look. The tide had turned, but Sarah knew enough about conflict to recognize this was merely a pause, not an end. The aliens had retreated but not surrendered. Their remaining ships maintained positions just beyond the effective range of Earth's vessels. In the impromptu command center established in the colony's underground emergency shelter, Elena convened a war council that combined military expertise with colonial knowledge, a gesture that immediately earned her the respect of the New Haven leadership. The good news, she began, is that we've secured the colony and driven back their initial forces. The bad news is that we're outnumbered, and our intelligence on their capabilities remains limited. Sarah stepped forward with the data tablet that had become her constant companion during the occupation. We've been documenting everything. Their work patterns, technology focus, physical capabilities, and most importantly, their communication cycles. Elena nodded. That information saved lives today, Doctor. What else can you tell us? They're methodical, hierarchical, and extremely interested in our technology, particularly our weapons and propulsion systems. But they have weaknesses. They struggle with confined spaces, which is why our tunnel network was so effective. Their vision appears optimized for different light spectrums than ours. And most importantly, she highlighted a series of notes, they're terrible at improvisation. This last observation caught Elena's attention. Explain. When we disrupted their routines or created unexpected obstacles, they often froze momentarily before responding. It's like they need to receive new instructions rather than adapt independently. Their strength is in coordination, not innovation. A slow smile spread across Elena's face, the expression of a tactician who had just identified a critical advantage. Dr. Chen, you may have just given us our strategy. These creatures excel at overwhelming force and technological superiority, but struggle with the unexpected. She turned to her officers. And if there's one thing humans specialize in, it's being unpredictable. As the meeting continued into the night, a plan began to take shape, one that would leverage human creativity and adaptability against alien precision and power. It wasn't just about defending the colony anymore. It was about demonstrating that humanity, despite its technological disadvantages, was not to be underestimated. The next morning, as New Haven's sun cast purple-tinged light across the partially damaged colony, Elena addressed the combined forces of Marines and colonists. Today, we don't just fight for this colony, she announced, her voice carrying across the gathered crowd. We fight to send a message to any species watching from the stars. Humanity will not be conquered. We will not be studied like laboratory specimens. We will not be underestimated. She gestured to the captured alien technology, now being carefully examined by a team of scientists, including Sarah. They came here thinking we were simple creatures to be harvested or displaced. They're about to learn that humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because we're the strongest or the most advanced, but because we never ever stop finding new ways to win. A cheer went up from the colonist people who just days earlier had been prisoners in their own home. As they dispersed to their assigned tasks, Sarah caught Elena's eye. "You really think we can win against their technology?" she asked quietly. Elena's response was measured but confident. "Technology isn't everything, Doctor. History is full of technically superior forces defeated by more creative, determined opponents. Besides," she added with a hint of a smile, "the Shimmers haven't even seen what our ships can really do yet. We were holding back." As if to emphasize her point, a series of explosions illuminated the upper atmosphere, the Terran vessels engaging the returning alien fleet. Round 2 had begun. The Shimmers returned at dawn 3 days later, their remaining ships descending through New Haven's atmosphere in tight formation. From their improvised command center, Elena and Sarah watched the tactical display with grim determination. 7 ships, counted Elena. More than we expected. They must have called for reinforcements. Sarah nodded, her attention focused on the alien communication patterns her instruments were detecting. Increased EM activity. They're coordinating something big. But the humans were ready. The intervening days had been spent in feverish preparation, combining military precision with colonial innovation. What the defenders of New Haven lacked in numbers and technology, they made up for in knowledge of the terrain and creative adaptation. "All units in position," reported Lieutenant Chang. "Operation Trojan is ready." Elena gave the order that set their plan in motion. "Commence Phase 1. Across the colony, carefully prepared defensive positions were suddenly abandoned. Marines and armed colonists retreated in apparent disarray, leaving equipment and supplies behind. From orbit, it would appear that the human forces were falling back in panic. The aliens responded predictably, their ground forces advancing to reclaim territory with methodical efficiency. They moved in precise formations, securing each sector before proceeding to the next exactly as Sarah had predicted they would. "They're following the same pattern," she confirmed, watching the sensor readings. "No deviation." Elena nodded. "They're creatures of protocol. Let's see how they handle a change in the script." Initiate Phase 2. Throughout the colony, hidden devices activated simultaneously. Some released harmless but visually disruptive smoke in shifting colors that mimicked the Shimmer's own communication patterns. Others broadcast electromagnetic pulses on frequencies that Sarah's team had identified as similar to those used in alien communications. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The advancing alien forces halted, their skin flashing in confused patterns as they attempted to process the contradictory signals. "They think they're receiving orders," explained Sarah, watching through binoculars from their elevated position, "but the messages make no sense to them." Elena didn't waste the opportunity. Phase 3. Now, from concealed positions in buildings, underground tunnels, and even redesigned agricultural equipment, human defenders emerged with weapons specifically modified, based on observations of alien physiology. Traditional firearms had been largely ineffective against the Shimmers, but the colonists' engineering team had discovered that certain sound frequencies disoriented them, and specific light patterns disrupted their color-based communication. Leading the Central Attack Group was Chief Agricultural Officer Lin Wei, who had transformed harvesting equipment into mobile sonic disruptors. "Farmers for the win!" he shouted as his team activated devices that emitted precisely calibrated sound waves. The aliens nearest to them froze in apparent confusion, their coordinated movements dissolving into individual, unconnected actions. Meanwhile, the Marine combat teams executed precisely timed strikes against the alien command vessels, using the colonists' distraction techniques as cover. These weren't frontal assaults, but strategic hit-and-run attacks targeting what intelligence suggested were navigation and communication systems. From her position coordinating the civilian engineering teams, Sarah watched with a scientist's fascination as the aliens struggled to adapt to human unpredictability. "They're used to fighting enemies who think like they do," she observed to young Jamie, who had proven invaluable for his detailed observations of alien behavior. "Logical, sequential, hierarchical. But humans are messy thinkers. We jump steps, we improvise, we break rules." Jamie nodded enthusiastically. "Like using the colony's weather modification system to create localized fog banks. That wasn't what it was designed for, but it works." Indeed, the repurposed weather control devices originally installed to protect crops during Kepler 186's intense seasonal changes now produce dense fog in strategic locations, blocking the aliens' line of sight while the human defenders, equipped with simple thermal imaging devices, maintained their advantage. The most dramatic moment came when Elena's elite squad, utilizing the distraction provided by the colonists, managed to board one of the smaller alien vessels. Rather than attempting to pilot the incomprehensible craft, they implemented what Elena had dubbed the oldest trick in the book. They sabotaged its propulsion system and set it on a collision course with the aliens' command ship before evacuating in stolen alien transport pods. The resulting explosion didn't destroy the larger vessel, but damaged it significantly, disrupting what appeared to be its central communication array. Almost immediately, the coordinated alien resistance began to falter. Their central command structure is compromised, Elena announced as reports flowed in. Just as we hoped. Without clear directions, they're struggling to adapt. On the battlefield, the effects were dramatic. Alien units that had moved with perfect synchronization now displayed hesitation and inconsistency. Some continued following their last orders. Others retreated toward their ships. And a few simply stopped moving altogether, their skins cycling through colors in what Sarah interpreted as confusion or distress. They don't have field autonomy, observed Administrator Okafor, who had insisted on joining the command team despite Elena's concerns for her safety. Their entire strategy depends on centralized control. The human forces press their advantage, not with overwhelming firepower, but with dozens of small coordinated actions designed to further disrupt alien operations. Marine snipers targeted what appeared to be officer-class aliens. Colonial engineers deployed electromagnetic pulse devices that interfered with alien technology. Even the children contributed, using remote-controlled drones built from toy parts to deliver small payloads of disruptive materials. By midday, the tide had turned decisively. 3 alien ships had retreated to orbit, 1 had been disabled on the ground, and the remainder were in defensive positions, no longer advancing, but seemingly awaiting instructions that weren't coming. The human casualties were mercifully light, mostly injuries rather than fatalities. Thanks to the effectiveness of marine armor against alien weapons and the success of the strategy to disrupt rather than directly confront superior firepower. As Elena and Sarah observed the aliens' disorganized retreat from a forward observation post, the Marine commander allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. Not bad for a bunch of farmers and soldiers against supposedly superior alien technology, she remarked. Sarah returned the smile, though hers held more scientific curiosity than military pride. They never understood what they were fighting. They saw our technology level and assumed we were primitive. They never accounted for human adaptability. Elena nodded thoughtfully. An easy mistake to make. Technology is easy to measure. Determination, creativity, courage, those don't show up on sensor scans. As if to punctuate her statement, a series of explosions lit up the sky as Terran ships engaged the retreating alien vessels in orbit. The battle for New Haven wasn't over, but for the first time since the invasion began, victory seemed not just possible but probable. Human ingenuity had proven itself against alien technology, and the message being sent beyond New Haven was clear Earth and its colonies would not fall easily to any invader, no matter how advanced they might appear. Captain Adama of the TDF Relentless watched the tactical display with veterans' eyes as the remaining alien vessels regrouped in high orbit. 29 years in space had taught him to recognize desperation when he saw it. They're preparing for a final push, he informed Commander Elena via their secured communication channel. All remaining ships, concentrated formation. This isn't a retreat, it's a last stand. On the ground, Elena processed this information as she coordinated the defense of New Haven's northern perimeter, where the aliens still maintained a significant presence. Can you intercept them before they reach atmosphere? Negative. They've adapted to our weapon signatures. They're moving in patterns specifically designed to minimize exposure to our firing solutions. There was grudging respect in Adama's voice. These things learn fast. Elena turned to Sarah, who had become her de facto civilian advisor. Options? The scientist had been analyzing data from the captured alien technology with her team around the clock. Dark circles under her eyes testified to her exhaustion, but her mind remained sharp. Their final communication cycle is in 17 minutes, she stated. They'll be vulnerable then, but only briefly. And there's something else. She hesitated, clearly troubled by whatever she had discovered. Speak freely, Doctor. Sarah pulled up a detailed analysis on her tablet. We've partially decoded their data storage. These aliens, the Shimmers, they're not the architects of this invasion. They're tools. She let that sink in before continuing. They're a bioengineered species created by something else, something that sends them as advanced forces to test new civilizations and prepare for the arrival of their makers. The implications were staggering. You're saying this was just a reconnaissance mission? Elena asked, her tactical mind already calculating the larger threat implications. More like a test of our capabilities, Sarah clarified. The device we captured wasn't just analyzing our technology, it was transmitting data about our responses, our adaptability, our strengths and weaknesses. Elena processed this with military efficiency. Then stopping that transmission becomes our top priority. Not just for New Haven, but for Earth. The plan came together with remarkable speed, a testament to the trust and collaboration that had developed between the military forces and colonists. While Elena's Marines prepared a decisive strike against the remaining ground forces during the upcoming communication cycle, a joint team of colonial engineers and military specialists would attempt something far more ambitious. It's insanely risky, warned technical specialist Rivera, examining the retrofitted colonial mining drill that had been transformed into what they were calling a signal disruptor. We've barely had time to test it. Welcome to the frontier, replied Linway with grim humor. Everything here is a prototype. The device represented the pinnacle of human ingenuity under pressure, a combination of Earth military technology, colonial engineering, and insights gleaned from captured alien equipment. Its purpose was simple but audacious: to transmit a massive energy pulse during the Shimmer's communication cycle that would not only disrupt their coordination, but potentially corrupt the data being relayed to their distant creators. As the countdown to the alien communication cycle approached, tension mounted across New Haven. Every available fighter was in position. The colonists who couldn't fight had been evacuated to the deepest underground facilities, protected by both natural rock formations and hastily constructed energy shields reverse-engineered from alien technology. 2 minutes to transmission, announced Sarah from the control center, where she monitored the aliens' electromagnetic signatures. Beside her, young Jamie operated the jury-rigged equipment that would trigger the disruptor at precisely the right moment. All units, final positions, ordered Elena over the tactical net. Remember, when they enter their communication trance, hit them hard and fast. We may not get another chance. Across the colony and in orbit, human defenders prepared for what might be their final confrontation with the alien force. The Shimmer's remaining ships had formed a precise geometric pattern above New Haven, a formation that Captain Adama recognized as optimized for concentrated energy projection. They're preparing to glass the colony, he warned Elena. Total destruction rather than allowing us to capture more of their technology. How long can you hold them off? Adama's response was pragmatic. Maybe 5 minutes once they begin their approach. Make them count. As the final seconds ticked down, Sarah's instruments detected the telltale electromagnetic surge that preceded alien communication. It's starting, all Shimmers entering communication state. Now! Across New Haven, the aliens froze in their synchronized trance, their skin shifting through complex patterns as they connected to each other and, presumably, to whatever distant intelligence had created them. Initiate countermeasures, ordered Elena. Jamie slammed his hand down on the activation switch, unleashing the full power of the signal disruptor. The effect was both invisible and dramatic. Instruments showed a massive surge of energy on frequencies matching the aliens' communication patterns. Simultaneously, human forces launched their coordinated attack. Marines with sonically enhanced weapons engaged the momentarily vulnerable ground forces. In orbit, Terran ships executed a daring maneuver that brought them dangerously close to the alien formation, targeting what analysis suggested were communication nodes. For 30 seconds, the outcome hung in balance. Then the first signs of success appeared. Alien ground forces began moving erratically, their skin patterns chaotic rather than synchronized. In orbit, the geometric formation fragmented as individual ships broke pattern. It's working, Sarah exclaimed, watching the data streams. Their communication network is destabilizing. But victory came with unexpected consequences. As the aliens' coordinated resistance collapsed, several ships in orbit suddenly accelerated toward the planet's surface, not in controlled descent, but in what appeared to be unguided falls. They've lost navigational control, realized Elena with alarm. Impact projections. The tactical display showed potential crash sites, one directly over New Haven's Central Plaza. Evacuate the command center, Elena ordered. All personnel to deep shelters immediately. As sirens wailed across the colony, humans scrambled for cover. Sarah found herself being practically carried to an underground bunker by a Marine whose name she didn't even know. Jamie running alongside them with surprising speed for a teenager. The first impact came 90 seconds later, a blinding flash, visible even from deep underground, followed by a shock wave that rattled the colony to its foundations. Two more followed in rapid succession, each striking at different points around New Haven's perimeter. When the tremors finally subsided, an eerie silence fell. In the command bunker, colonists and Marines alike waited tensely for any sign of what remained above. Radiation levels normal, reported a technician monitoring environmental systems. No detection of alien energy signatures. Elena exchanged glances with Administrator Okafor. Permission to lead a reconnaissance team to the surface? Okafor nodded gravely. Granted, but proceed with extreme caution, Commander. We don't know what survived those crashes. 20 minutes later, Elena's voice crackled over the emergency channel, her tone containing something none of them had heard before: genuine amazement. You're going to want to see this, was all she said. When Sarah and the others emerged cautiously from the underground facility, they found a landscape transformed. Craters marked where alien ships had crashed, but the destruction was less extensive than feared, as if the vessels had somehow managed partial control even in their final moments. More surprising was what Elena's team had discovered at the largest impact site. The alien craft had broken open, revealing not just the iridescent shimmers they had been fighting, but clear evidence of their artificial nature. They're biological drones, explained Sarah, as she examined the partially intact alien with scientific awe. Grown rather than built, but programmed rather than evolved. Look at these implants, their communication nodes, interfacing directly with their nervous system. Captain Adama, who had shuttled down from orbit after confirming the alien fleet's destruction, leaned in to study the creature. So someone else is pulling the strings. Any idea who? Sarah shook her head. Not yet, but the data we captured should give us some clues. She gestured to the device they had seized days earlier, which had remarkably survived the battle intact. Whatever sent these things will know they failed. The question is whether they'll try again. Linway, his farmer's hands now as adept with salvaged alien technology, as they had once been with crops, pointed to strange markings on the fallen ship's interior. These symbols keep repeating. Could be coordinates or identification marks. Elena studied the wreckage with tactical eyes. We need to prepare. If these were just the scouts, the main force could be much worse. Or, interjected Administrator Okafor with cautious optimism, they might reconsider attacking a species that defeated their advanced force with significantly inferior technology. Jamie, who had been quietly examining the alien remains, looked up with sudden excitement. Dr. Chen, look at this. He pointed to what appeared to be a data module in the alien's cranial cavity. I think this is their equivalent of a black box recorder. Within hours, New Haven's science team, bolstered by specialists from the TDF vessels, had connected the recovered data module to their computers. The encryption was formidable, but with insights gained from weeks of studying alien communication patterns, they made remarkable progress. It's a star chart, announced Sarah as the first images resolved on the display, and what appears to be a timeline. The implications became clear as they deciphered more data. The shimmers had been sent as an advanced force, but their creators were located in a system nearly 30 light-years distant. More importantly, the timeline suggested that no reinforcements were expected for at least 15 Earth years. The creatures who had engineered the shimmers apparently had no faster-than-light technology either. So we have time, concluded Elena. Time to prepare, to learn from their technology, to strengthen our defenses. And to send a message, added Captain Adama. Earth needs to know what happened here and what might still be coming.